It was just past the 70th minute when the stadium roared. The substitutes bench at that moment belonged to a player no one expected to change the fate of the match. He sat there. The promise, the hidden spark, the one dismissed as maybe one for the future. The floodlights glared overhead, the crowd chanted, the coach glanced down the list and made the call. "You're going on." And in those seconds, time seemed to slow. A heartbeat stretched. The spotlight moved. A figure rose from the bench and stepped onto the pitch with a quiet determination that belied his young age. Every eye followed him. The opposing defense, the anxious home fans, the scouts nestled in the stands with clipboards in hand. He carried a load of expectation and a whisper of doubt. Can he make the leap? Can he seize the chance when opportunity knocks? Moments later, the ball landed at his feet. A touch, a turn, a burst of speed. The crowd held its breath. The center half hesitated. A gap opened. The faint murmur of, "Who is this kid?" rippled through the stands. And then, a finish. The net bulged. The bench erupted. The spotlight now fixed. From the quiet resignation of being an unused substitute to the triumph of entering the match and deciding it, he had rewritten his story. This is the story of that transformation, a young footballer who stared at the bench, made it his starting point, and forced his way into the radar of Italy's elite. A journey of patience, refusal to settle, and a single moment that changed everything. Today, you're going to see how Semih Kılıçsoy made that leap, from whisper on the sidelines to headline maker in the world of Serie A. Hi, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss stories about football's next big stars. Now, let's get into it. Semih Kılıçsoy wasn't born into spotlight or fame. He was born into noise, the kind that fills the narrow streets of Istanbul, where every alley echoes with the sound of a football bouncing off concrete. For kids there, football isn't a hobby. It's the heartbeat of the neighborhood. He grew up idolizing local heroes. But unlike many who dream and drift away, Semih showed something different early on, a hunger that came with silence. He wasn't the loudest on the pitch. He didn't celebrate goals with arrogance. But when the ball touched his feet, even coaches stopped talking. At the Beşiktaş Youth Academy, coaches remember him as obsessed. First in, last out. While others packed up, Semih stayed behind, practicing touches until the floodlights dimmed. He wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing perfection. But in the brutal world of Turkish football, talent alone isn't enough. For every player who makes it to the first team, hundreds fade away in the noise. And for a while, it looked like Semih might be one of them. Every young player has to pay their dues. For Semih, those dues were paid sitting on the bench, game after game, month after month. Watching, waiting, hoping. The fans didn't know his name. The commentators barely mentioned him. And when they did, it was usually followed by the phrase, "One for the future." But here's the truth about the future. It never arrives unless you grab it yourself. So Semih decided to turn the bench into his training ground. He studied matches from the sidelines, player movements, tactical setups, defensive weaknesses. He learned patience. He learned hunger. Every substitution he didn't get made him sharper. Every minute he wasn't called upon became fuel. Then came that moment, the day his coach finally pointed his way. The day he stopped being the kid on the bench and started being the player to watch. The stadium lights glared bright that evening. The score was locked. Beşiktaş needed something, or someone, different. The coach turned. "Semih, warm up." You could almost hear the disbelief ripple through the crowd. He stepped onto the field, nerves masked behind focus. Within 10 minutes, he made a clever run behind the defense. One clean touch, one perfectly timed strike, goal. The stadium erupted. That moment wasn't just a goal. It was a declaration. Overnight, Turkish football forums lit up. Who was this kid? How did he play with such maturity? And before long, European scouts had their answers too. Reports started circulating. Serie A scouts impressed by young Beşiktaş forward. What made Semih different wasn't just his skill, it was how he learned from others. He studied Dusan Vlahovic's movement, Haaland's aggression, and Benzema's patience. He wasn't trying to copy them. He was blending their attributes into his own identity. He refined his runs, his first touch control, his link-up play. Every match became a lesson. Every mistake, a workshop. And gradually the numbers began to speak for him. Goals, assists, and consistency. The kind of form that makes you impossible to ignore. When the whispers about Italy began, no one was surprised anymore. Scouts from Cagliari, Bologna, and even Juventus began taking notes. But Semih wasn't chasing the move. He was chasing mastery. Serie A clubs have a keen eye for forwards who can think and move smartly. They love players who combine power with tactical awareness, and Semih fit the bill perfectly. He wasn't the tallest, but his balance, timing, and decision-making made him a nightmare for defenders. Italian scouts were drawn to his maturity, the same calmness he showed stepping off that bench months ago. Reports described him as mentally older than his age. Cagliari made the first move. A $14 million valuation appeared in headlines. For a player barely breaking through, that was massive. But it was more than money. It was validation. It meant Europe was watching. And once that happens, your career changes forever. Every athlete has a story, but few have a mindset like Semih's. He doesn't chase hype. He builds habits. While others post on social media, he trains quietly. While others celebrate one goal, he replays the miss that came before it. That's what separates him. The refusal to be satisfied. He once said in an interview, "If I'm not improving, I feel like I'm losing." That line sums up his journey. It's why he's now compared to players far older than him, and why clubs see him as not just a striker, but an investment in the future. Semih's rise teaches one undeniable truth. You don't need a spotlight to start shining. He didn't begin as a star. He began as a substitute. But he turned every no into a lesson, every delay into motivation. And that's the heart of this story. The idea that patience isn't weakness. It's preparation. He waited, he worked. And when the chance came, he was ready to seize it. So if you're an athlete, a dreamer, or someone sitting on the sidelines of your own life, remember his story. The bench isn't your ending. It's your training ground. Today, his name echoes beyond Turkey. Italian commentators pronounce it carefully. Fans Google him. Journalists speculate. But for Semih Kılıçsoy, this is only the beginning, because the boy who once waited on the bench doesn't wait anymore. He hunts moments. He creates them. And somewhere in a crowded stadium, another young player sits watching him, whispering the same dream. One day, that will be me. If this story inspired you, hit that like button. Share it with someone chasing their dream. And don't forget to subscribe for more football stories that go beyond the scoreboard. Until next time, this is the football era. And this was From Bench to Spotlight, the rise of Semih Kılıçsoy.